developers unveiling preliminary plans to build a Tesla dealership and service center in Chicopee. They hope to receive approval on their special permit to build, but instead faced criticism from local leaders and neighbors at tonight's zoning committee meeting. Western Mass News reporter Maria Wilson is live tonight in studio with the latest details from that meeting. Maria?
Chris, tonight in Chicopee, zoning committee members and the public raised a number of concerns about the dealership's construction, and the committee ultimately decided to postpone their vote until a later date.
Chairman, we're here seeking a special permit under that section 275-66A, and this is for the development of an electric car dealership and service center on Burnett Road.
Western Mass News first learned about Scanelli Properties' interest in the 7-acre space on Burnett Road in Chicopee several weeks ago. Wednesday's meeting now shedding light into the developer's plans for the property, including conceptual plans for the proposed 50,000 square foot Tesla dealership and service center. According to the applicant's traffic study, the dealership would only increase traffic in the area by between 1.1 and 1.5% during peak weekday hours.
On the overall basis, it's really a minimal traffic impact on these locations.
But some in the crowd say they think this number will be more significant.
As it stands right now, we have bumper-to-bumper traffic.
City councilors also raised questions on the number of proposed parking spaces.
400 parking spaces is a lot. There's only 35 employees at any given time. 400 parking spaces seems a bit excessive. I would just recommend that, restricting the size of this parcel.
Ultimately, committee members agreed to postpone the vote.
My ask from the board is, to table this to the next meeting.
And the committee also had concerns with the practicality of the property's proposed entry and exit points. They will readdress their follow-up questions with the applicants during an upcoming meeting, which is set to take place on April 19th. Reporting live in studio, Maria Wilson, Western Mass News.